People ask, why doesn't she recognize Geoff's evil nature? You can look at it in many ways, you know. She says he's vulnerable, he's fragile. Many, many reasons, and I hear about these reasons from people who have written to me for similar circumstances.
What we really wanted to highlight was that domestic abuse doesn't always have to be physical, and psychological abuse of this kind can be just as damaging.
We approached charities, which is what we often do with these kind of stories, and in this case we went to Women's Aid and Independent Choices, who are a local Manchester charity. They were brilliant. They gave us some great insights into the kind of behaviours, the timeline that this kind of abuse might take.
There are also things that characterise this type of abuse as well, so the sense of isolation, gaslighting, and what we found from research is that perpetrators like Geoff are often very good at manipulating both their victim and the world outside. And when they are then exposed, the reaction from other people is, surely not them.
We wanted to do it with somebody like Yasmeen. On the one hand, she's got a lot going for her, she's got her own business, she's quite intelligent. On the other hand, she is actually quite vulnerable in a way, having had one relationship in her life that had been the guy that she was married to, that she thought she'd be with forever, and then she was quite damaged by the end of that. So in some ways, she was a person that we felt perhaps might be targeted by a perpetrator like Geoff.
Lots of people in her life have left her. I mean, she lost her only son. Her husband went off with a mutual friend. Her grandson has gone off to pastures new.
I think what's been really good is the way that they've done the slow nature of this, of how over time it gets worse for Yasmeen. Over time, Geoff pushes it just a little bit more.
He knew that she was claustrophobic, and yet he tried to assert his power in a very, very practical way.
That one scene that we thought was particularly important was on screen just after the magic box, where Yasmeen knew that Geoff had done something terrible to her. She was thinking of leaving, but Geoff then manipulated her. He got upset, he cried, he blamed his past relationships.
So she has to balance her own feelings, and she believes her selfishness, against the need of this man who tells her that he loves her all the time. And it's not just, this is not a story. I've heard this story from many, many women and some men as well.
Admittedly, it has been a long-running story. I mean, it's kind of been going since the moment that Geoff arrived in the show, but we wanted to show the reality, really, of how somebody can end up in this situation.
To explore the ways that you should help somebody that you think might be in a vulnerable position without compromising their safety.
I hope people will continue to watch and be educated, if that's the right word. It's been handled with immense sensitivity, I hope, and I hope with the help of the production team, the directors, the writers, that both Ian Bartholomew and I are trying to do our very, very best to be as real as we possibly can. People are becoming very supportive. They're not worrying about the fact that in Coronation Street, or in soap terms, a year and a half of gradual exploration, they're not thinking of it as being too much.
I think a lot of people, understandably, have said that it can be at times uncomfortable to watch. But I think for the people in it that existing in these relationships, it can be so debilitating, and that's why it was important to give it time to breathe.
The chickens became a very important part of Yasmeen's transference of affection, of love. She started off by not liking them, but when Sharif abandoned them, she felt that she was she and the chickens had been abandoned, so she embraced them and she loved them and she fed them, and they became part of her family. And not only did she feel this loss, but she ate it. You know, and I think that's a hugely traumatic experience to go through, truly despicable. But they're not dead, so I had to console myself that we're all actors, the chickens as well. There are people out there now suffering who haven't come through it, and they will, I believe, get help because of it, because, you know, after every episode there are provisions made. We get phone numbers, and I urge everybody watching this to call people and seek help, because there is help out there, and this is a universal problem, and it's got to be looked at.